So let's get started. Welcome. My name is Elizabeth Aloni, and I'm with Schneps Media. Schneps Media publishes over 70 newspapers, magazines, websites, webinars, podcasts, and events in Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Westchester, Manhattan, and Long Island. So we are thrilled today to bring to you experts to discuss moving to Westchester and selling in New York City and making that decision about moving to the Burbs, which so many people are thinking about today. I'd like to get started by having our panelists introduce themselves, and please tell us a little bit about what you do, where you're located, a little bit about yourself. So I'm going to get started with Anna. If you can get us started, that would be wonderful.
Well, hello. Hello from the Poconos, although I am a New York City dweller. I've been living in Manhattan since 1996, and I've been selling real estate proudly with Halstead, soon to be BHS, Brown Harris Stevens, for about 20 years. Very passionate about what I do, and I hate seeing people leave the city, but I know that sometimes it's a necessity, so I believe that everyone should be well informed, and I'm here to help and answer your questions about how to make that happen.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Let's move now to Lynn. Can you share a little bit about yourself with our attendees?
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lynn Markel, and I'm a real estate attorney based in New York City. I've been a real estate attorney for the past 10 years, and I specialize in representing individuals who are buying or selling in the city, Westchester, Long Island, and New Jersey. My sweet spot is working with first-time home buyers and also experienced clients who've been through the process before, but are looking for a more personal, stress-free representation, and also want a strong advocate for them throughout the process and at the closing table. So this is a really unique time in the real estate world, and I'm very happy to be part of this panel discussion and answer any questions that you might have regarding the buying or selling process in this current market.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Lynn. Welcome. So happy to have you being here. Laura, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Welcome, everyone, and I hope you find this webinar informative. As the interior designer in the group, I want to just let you know a little bit about myself and my firm. I'm based in Greenwich, Connecticut. I serve the tri-state area, along with outside the tri-state area. We are a full-service interior design firm and interior architects. We do complete interior design. And I also have an interior design studio, which houses tile and furniture and lighting and a lot of accessories and whatnot. So it gives you a good broad idea of what's available and, of course, much more. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And I'd love to hear from Hara. Please tell us a little about yourself.
My name is Hara Schilowitz, and I work for Wells Fargo. I'm a private mortgage banker, but don't let private mortgage banker title fool you. I work with any and all buyers, any real mortgage range. So I specialize in the tri-state area, and I can also do mortgages all over the country. I am a New York City dweller as well. And I was lucky to get a little escape from the city this week. So I'm talking to you from out east right now. And I look forward to answering all of your questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we are going to have another person with us as well. She's having a little, here she is, Elise. Perfect timing. Please, Elise, introduce yourself to everyone.
Sorry about that. My internet just went off. My name is Elise Flagg. I live in Scarsdale. I've lived in Scarsdale for 29 years, and I grew up on Long Island. I married someone from Edgemont. I've lived in Larchmont and Rybrook, so I know Westchester very well, and raised 3 kids in Scarsdale, and I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. And I'm here to answer all your questions.
Terrific. Perfect. So I wanted to kick it off with finding out, obviously the big elephant in the room is COVID. So I wanted to hear from each of you about how COVID has affected real estate, what you've seen that's different. Maybe Elise, you want to take that first?
Yeah, sure. When COVID first started, when we first found out about it, we basically said to all our sellers, take your house off the market. You don't want days on market, and we'll tell you when to come back on the market. You know, no one had any idea what was going on. And P.S., we got a lot of calls from people from the city looking for short-term rentals and short-term furnished rentals. That was our first call. And basically, short-term rentals in the best markets are impossible. And then I would say a couple weeks later, all of a sudden, we have this onslaught of people from the city trying to get out of the city. So we basically told our clients, okay, we told you to get off the market, now we're telling you to come back on the market, as well as telling anybody that if you were ever thinking about selling, this is the time. We have very little inventory, and basically what has happened, we've had a total exodus from the city to Scarsdale. So really from all of Westchester. So I would say whether you're under $1 million or you're over 4 million or wherever you are, basically, if your house is priced to value, we are seeing multiple offers literally within days. And that's how quick you will find out if you priced your house well or not. And we don't have enough inventory. So I would say in the next couple of weeks, we probably have 20 houses that I know of that will be coming on.
Wow. So it's a lot of demand, but don't be scared. With the right broker, you could find something for you. Don't be afraid.
Well, we can talk about that too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Anna, why don't you give us your perspective from New York City?
Well, it's been pretty interesting from the perspective of where people are taking the exodus from. You know, a lot of people, either they have a weekend house or they rented a weekend house for extended months to get out of the city because it was just so scary. Nobody really knew what to expect and what to do and how long it was going to last, and homeschooling. And, you know, there was a lot, especially with multiple people in your family, needed to get out of the apartment. So many people had the opportunity to experience what it was like living in the suburbs or in a more, you know, suburban, sometimes even isolated area. Some people found that's really what they've been looking for, and that's what they want to pursue now. Some people have actually realized it's too isolating for me, and I can't wait to get back into the city and be among everybody. So it's just a really unprecedented time in our lives, of course, but also in real estate, in that this is an opportunity where people are making changes, whether it be within the city to find that place with outdoor space or with great light or great views, or make that move out of the city without too many of your friends saying, oh, you're leaving Manhattan, shame on you, or any of that. Because, you know, people do that. I'm making a joke, but it's a real thing to say you're done with the city. So this is a really good opportunity for people to do that. And they've had the practice now for the last few months. So it's interesting.
So yeah, so people are really looking at things from a different perspective and making decisions, either making these decisions quicker than they had planned, or really making brand new decisions they never thought they would.
Yes.
So wow. What about you, Hara, from the mortgage perspective? What's gone on there? I know a lot of people are concerned, like, does it take longer to get a mortgage? You know, what's happening in your world?
You know, I want to actually start by, just because of what Anna and Elise said. So I work with all those buyers, and anyone that I had looking for a property in New York and I had a pre-approval and was ready to go, they were maybe even ready to sign a contract. At the end of this, they still went forward. And a lot of them got that same property. If they didn't get that property, they realized this is where they want to be. And then I have some which, you know, said, you know what, maybe I am ready to go. And it's so interesting that the brokers are seeing the same sort of migration and or mindset that the buyers are having. As far as the lending standards, they've become more particular and specific in the past couple of years before COVID came. And I think this forced certain rules to become more strict, especially on credit, and people that showed maybe, you know, it hasn't become harder to get a mortgage. You just need to really be able to show that you have a steady income and you have steady ability to continue to save, that you have the ability to repay. there are some rules that got a little stricter, but in general, good credit, source of income, down payment, you'll get lending, and it's not really taking longer for buyers. I mean, purchases are priority. So if you know someone we're financing and they're saying how long it's taking, that's because the buyers are coming first, because those people, they have a goal, they need to get into their property, they have contracts, and we're always going to prioritize the people that need to close by a certain time. So that's really where I know that Wells Fargo it's very important to them that they don't cause anyone to miss any deadlines, their mortgage contingency, the date they want to close. So in short, it's not that much harder to get a mortgage now. You just need to have find the right fit and the right mortgage for yourself.
Well, that certainly is a sigh of relief for a lot of people to know that that's not going to hold up what they want to do with real estate and where they want to live. Thank you so much. What about as an attorney, Lynn? Are there different things happening with contracts around?
Yes. So now we're negotiating COVID language into contracts. So every attorney who specializes in doing real estate transactions, now you're expected to see more negotiations on specific COVID language. So for example, if I'm representing a buyer now, I'll add extra protection under the contract that if there are any governmental shutdowns or if my client gets sick with COVID and we can't close, we'll be able to delay the closing without any penalties. Also, if my client is taking out a mortgage, it's really important to add specific language that if the bank can't fund the loan for any reason specific to COVID, my client can cancel the contract and get their deposit back. So there's definitely more negotiations in terms of COVID language in the contract. But the biggest effect that COVID had is on the closing itself. So pre-COVID, the closing was a mini celebration. So we would have the sellers and the buyers and the brokers and the bank and the title, and everyone's in the same conference room, and we're signing documents and we're exchanging checks. And now everything is done remotely. So in my opinion, it's not the end of the world, but it's different. And some clients are nervous and they still want to meet in person. So for those clients, I'll sit down with them, we'll meet in person and I'll go over everything. But some of my high risk clients, we do everything over a Zoom call. So I'll overnight them the closing documents. We'll go over everything via Zoom. And now with the governor's order, I can notarize the documents over Zoom. So it makes things easier for people who are at high risk or don't want to meet in person. So definitely the closing process is very different.
Good to know those options are there depending upon what your situation is, and also very important for people to be aware how it's important to really have a good attorney on your team that knows to include these COVID bits of contract negotiation to protect yourself. So thank you for that. What about design, Laura? What's happening in the design world? What are you seeing that's different?
What's interesting is that it started out absolutely crazy busy, and I expected there to be a lull. I thought, I might have a little downtime. I might, get running and, get exercising. And instead, it was full speed ahead. Everyone was very concerned about what was going to happen in the future. So they sort of accelerated their plans. Then there was meetings. Meetings were very difficult. I met in the freezing cold outside with people with blueprints blowing in the wind, and we set up heaters and trying to stay apart. I've also then had clients who wanted their backyard done, or their office done, or they wanted any room done that would give them comfort during a time when they were now sharing the space with their husband and their 2 children and the dog, and getting no work done. And then I've had the other extreme, where I've had clients from the area who have had homes on the market that were not selling, that suddenly sold. They were then able to buy a new home and now renovating it from top to bottom. So there's a tremendous amount of activity. I'm probably more busy than I was a year ago.
Wow, it's incredible. With thinking from the beginning, telling people get your house off the market, nothing's going to move, to homes moving, renovating, and all of your work.
It's certainly optimistic, where it seemed so doom and gloom, but with all this activity, and it definitely gives you a tremendous amount of hope.
We can all use that for sure. So Elise, tell me about, obviously you mentioned the incredible interest that you're seeing in Westchester, but what are some of the reasons why people choose Westchester to move to?
Well, I think, historically and what's going on today, the commute from Lower Westchester is very simple. From Scarsdale, the commute is 32 minutes on the card, which is nothing. You're in Grand Central by the time you've read one article in the New York Times, or maybe two articles. It's the community, it's the schools, it's the recreation that all these communities offer you. And I think they get to the point, what happens is we usually have clients that have had one child and they're staying in the city and they're never moving and they're going to be different. And then you're trying to get your child into preschool, which is like getting your child into college, and you're paying X. So then they start saying, well, let me start checking it out. And I think what we end up finding, those people definitely were started to look in Westchester during this, but now we're also having the people that were really on the fence, not really sure. And I think also the new normal, which will probably be some remote working as well as going back into the city, because I do believe people will be going back into the city. So you still want that good commute, but you don't have to be down the block as you've been in the city. So you can be on the train for a half an hour, and so have best of both worlds. You're in the city when you have to be in the city, but you're also now working from home. And I think they are also realizing that, if this happens, hopefully they'll figure this out. But no one ever expected this. And I think also the other thing that we're seeing that's happening with a lot of our clients is, I think they were looking for maybe smaller homes. Maybe you'd get a home in Westchester, and maybe you'd get, when you could afford it, a second home somewhere else. I think now they're looking at a little larger home, because you don't really know who will be in your pod, you'll be quarantined with going forward. And I just think it's changed their mindset. The other thing that we're also seeing is, a year or two ago, I would have said exactly as I explained, now they're looking for recreation. They're looking for a pool, where that was never a priority for young couples. Now, because of whether pools are available, community pools are not, or club pools, they are finding that is literally, we'll show them a home, and that's the first thing that they ask, which we're very surprised, because we didn't expect that at all.
Wow, so people are really changing their viewpoint about what they're looking for.
Totally, absolutely, yeah.
And you're able to steer them too with, what we're talking about with commuting, and, what are the things that are most important to them when they come out to Westchester, so that you can help them with your experience of what's the right community, because Westchester has so many different communities.
Right, well, I also say to my clients, I have always said this. We always, I'll always give them a tour of the various communities. And then when we get to the point where they're starting to feel like this might be it, I always tell them, walk in the village, walk around. This will be your community. These will be your friends. Do you see yourself here? You want your clients to be comfortable. And then I also tell them, if we find a house that they're interested in on a certain block, drive that, come on that block different times, talk to the neighbors. I am happy to answer questions, but ask them questions. Everybody likes to talk. They'll tell you the pros and cons. And, that's a good way to figure out, where you see yourself. And I think that's really helped a lot of my clients,
And you've been able to do that now with COVID. You've still been able to show tours of the neighborhoods, and what you've been able to do workarounds?
Well, basically, initially, we were not even allowed to go in the house with our clients. Then the governor was allowing us to go in the house with social distance, and we all have PPE regardless. We all have our masks on, although everyone has masks. I always have masks, gloves, and booties in my car. In case of emergency, we always have that. So anytime we ever tour a house, we always have that, and you have social distancing. But I think that now, there's more of a comfort level with the sellers, allowing people in, more of a comfort level with the buyers as well. Although, interestingly enough, we did have a couple of houses that were literally sold at the beginning of COVID, sight unseen. We had one person from England moving here in August, saw a house online, Googled it, saw where it was, bought it sight unseen in Scarsdale. And then we had two others that they were not allowed in the house, but the seller allowed them to walk the property, and they bought the house, which is kind of insane, but it was happening. But now people are allowed in, and we're very careful. We usually have half an hour intervals of appointments and never overlapping. So I think people have that comfort also. We're very conscious of that for their health and for the sellers.
That's great. That allows people to be able to still get the sense of the home and the neighborhood, but still be safe. Right. Well, Anna, what about in the city? What kind of interest are you seeing in sales in New York City right now? We hear so much about the flocking but what's happening in New York City?
Well, in the beginning, it was pretty quiet. The streets were quiet. Real estate in general was quiet. People were panicking, and they were focused on the family, on the home, where they were. And there wasn't a ton going on. So a lot of webinars. So as of June 22nd, when the New York City agents were allowed to enter other people's apartments and allowed to show and deemed as workers, it's been kind of hit or miss. The properties that have something special to them, a nice outdoor space, or maybe that second bedroom is an actual bedroom as opposed to an interior room, or something that it's all about perspective, of course, and it's relative to where they're coming from, but something where if they were to be locked down again, could they be comfortable in this home? So anyone that's not leaving Manhattan, outdoor space properties have a lot of activity, 3 to 4 bedrooms, but the prices have dropped, and we're talking about a 10 to 15% reduction in price. At the same time, with that being said, there's, for the properties that have outdoor space or incredible views or that beautiful living room that's just so inviting and comfortable to be in, there could also be bidding wars. So people that are not leaving the city but do want to upgrade within the city or take advantage of those price reductions. Some people are selling their smaller place and taking their losses there and putting that into a larger apartment that will appreciate more ultimately once everything settles back. And then the people that want to sell and want to leave the city and move to, Westchester or wherever they're going, they kind of know that they have to take a bit of a loss, but it's for the sake of their livelihood. It's for the sake of their family. For those people, it's not an investment decision. It's a comfort and stability and what's right for my family decision. Anyone that's buying right now, it's usually an investment decision.
Well, it might be a good time to get a little getaway apartment in the city, right?
A lot of people, Elise and I were talking the other day, and a lot of people that have homes in Westchester may want to capitalize on a pied-à-terre in the city right now, a studio even, a 1-bedroom, something that they can come in and crash. The numbers are different than they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Very, very different world out there.
That's good to know. Yeah. So Lynn, what about, what do potential buyers coming from the city need to look out for?
So there are a few things that I would advise people coming from the city and buying in Westchester to really be on the lookout for. The first thing is have an inspection done. So the majority of the people coming from Manhattan are either currently living in a condominium or a co-op. When you buy in a condo or a co-op in the city, you don't have an inspection. But when you buy in Westchester, it's highly recommended and you should have an inspection done before you enter into contract. So the first step of the buying process in Westchester is having the inspection done. So I would definitely recommend that. The second is to be aware of the closing dates. Again, people that are coming from Manhattan are coming from condominiums and co-ops, where the buying process is very different. So if you're buying or selling in a co-op or a condo in the city, you need to get board approval in order to sell and to buy. And you need to submit a board application, and you need to get interviewed by the board and submit your financials. And it takes time for the board to meet to give you that proper approval. And for us attorneys, we can't close until we have that board approval. So the average closing in the city with financing in a condo or a co-op is anywhere between 45 to 90 days. Where in Westchester, the process is much quicker because you're only dealing with the seller and you're dealing with the bank if you're financing. So the average closing in Westchester can go anywhere between 45 to 60 days. And if you're an all cash buyer, it could be as quickly as 30 days. So it's important to be aware of the closing date, especially if you need to sell your property in the city in order to buy in Westchester. And the last thing are the real estate taxes. And that's something that the brokers also consult the clients on. Real estate taxes are much higher in Westchester than they are in the city. So that's something to be aware of. And sometimes the real estate taxes that are advertised on the listing are not 100% accurate. So in my opinion, it's good to engage an attorney while you're in the process of looking, because if you do want to confirm the taxes or anything else, you have someone who can give you the exact amount and you know what you're getting yourself into.
Great, thank you. That's some really good advice. And also, you know, in terms of thinking ahead, you know, Hara, about, you know, getting your mortgage. You know, I know that, you know, one of the things too that people are needing to do is to be pre-approved sometimes before they even see a home, as one of the changes that has happened. So, you know, as Lynn is saying, you know, it's really important to get your team together even before you found the house that you want, to be able to discuss all these things and make the right choices. Hara, what did people need to know about financing in Westchester right now?
You know, the financing in any state is virtually the same, but in a competitive area like a Westchester, pre-approval is key. And, you know, getting a pre-approval, you know, there are two types. There's one which is sort of a simple application with the bank. You provide your, you know, your income, your assets, your credit, and you can get this pre-approval right away. There's a more in-depth pre-approval, which is especially good for people with multiple income streams or might be self-employed, because that way you get a full underwriting approval in advance. And when you find your property and you're already kind of halfway done. So you don't have that back and forth with the bank. Again, if you're self-employed, things are always a little bit more paperwork. So you're really a step ahead for yourself if you're trying to close in 30 days. So it might be helpful to get the full pre-approval rather than just the simple one, which you get in one day. But I don't think that really there's any room to show up at any property you're really interested in without that in your hand, which in New York and in other places people do, but that property is gone by the next day. You want to make your bid right away. This is what I keep hearing from all my clients when they're calling me on a Sunday. I saw a property, I love it, I want to make a bid. Can you get me a pre-approval tomorrow morning? I'm like, okay, but we got to be up early and we got to get it done. So it's definitely really competitive from what I'm hearing. Of course, you're hearing it today too, but I've been hearing this as well. And I think the pre-approval is key. And as I was saying before, the quick closings, you know, 30 to 30 days is a little bit ambitious when you're going with a lender, but it's not impossible, especially if you've already put together your documentation in advance, so you're ready to go as soon as you make your bid. And 60 days, that's a slam dunk. So I don't really see that as an issue.
Important things. And I think, you know, anyone who's on here looking at moving, give you a call now so that you can make sure that you have the pre-approvals that you need to be able to make that difference between getting a home or losing a home, especially in these competitive times.
Absolutely.
I want to jump over to Laura because I wanted to know, how does a designer make a move easier during these times?
That's easy. One of the simplest things in hiring a designer is you have someone else to take care of all the details. One of the things that is so overwhelming is that you're going through the move, you're considering all your packing, where you're putting your children. There are so many considerations. But if you're hiring an interior designer, she's there to make it all work. Also, there may be furniture that might be coming. So that furniture may have to be incorporated now into a bigger room, which may not be an easy fit. So you have a professional who's trying to work within the current situation, whatever that may be. There's a variety of things that may fall into play. Either that, or they're coming with no furniture whatsoever, and they're moving rapidly, and they would like to have some furniture. So then the designer has opportunities to get them into furniture, either through staging furniture or through stock furniture. I think the best advice would definitely be to hire an interior designer who's going to do the floor plan, who's going to make it all cohesive, particularly if you're bringing some old furniture. It would be very difficult to start in a room probably 2 to 3 times the space with little pieces of furniture suitable for an apartment, and then think you're going to have a cohesive design.
So very important when you're making these moves from the city to Westchester to have someone to be able to help you with that. What about when you're selling a home? How important is it to have a designer there, and how to help make your apartment or home even more sellable?
Well, I think for the most part, everyone has a tendency of gathering things. So there's a lot of clutter. So one of the best things is to call an interior designer in and start looking to be able to refresh in ways that are not terribly expensive. Obviously, you're hoping you're not buying new furniture, but maybe you're changing your pillows, maybe you're changing some accessories. You are definitely going to declutter, and that will be one of the first things that your interior designer is going to tell you to do. Then there are the obvious things that may be a true detriment to a sale, and that might be a bathroom that is in really bad condition, and it needs to change because there are a lot of people who are not willing to do the work. So if they're walking into a house that needs all new bathrooms and a kitchen, and they have no contractor, they have no background, they have no time, they have kids at home, they are working from home, all of these situations, they need a professional who's going to take charge and supervise that for them.
And you can do that from designing kitchens to faucets. Absolutely. To right. Furniture and really from everything.
Right. Yes, I'm a full service interior design firm and an interior architect.
And with your experience too, I think, now where people can't necessarily go into showrooms or
right.
How are you able to help people that way?
Well, what's interesting is I do have a full tile studio as well. I have a new client who, again, she sold her existing home. She's buying a new home, and she's redoing 9 bathrooms. She still has others to go, but she's redoing 9 bathrooms. So she also wanted it done within a quick period of time. So having the tile studio, I was able to select everything for her. And then she was able to come in quickly, look at what had been selected, say yes, no, and then walk out. So yes, having everything under one roof is also very beneficial. It's a tremendous time saver for the client. And at the same time, I'm also a tile dealer, so it makes the price very, very competitive.
Perfect. That's important information. Thank you. Elise, can you talk a little bit about the different areas in Westchester, like commute times, how you find a community that's a good fit?
Mm-hmm. I would say, obviously Lower Westchester is where people always initially looked, whether it was Scarsdale, Edgemont, Larchmont. Those commute times are all, as I said, earlier, probably about 32 minutes on the card, which is what everyone's looking for. If you go further north, you are definitely getting more land and getting more house, but you're adding to the commute. So you're adding, it could be 15 minutes, it could be a half an hour, depending, as well as it takes time to get to the station. So you could be in a community where the commute now is 45 minutes and it's 20 minutes to the train station. So you just have to figure what your lifestyle will be. Is that something that you're willing to do? The other thing that my clients talk to me about all the time is that, especially when they're at the age where their children, they're carpooling their children, or they will be. you get really spoiled when you're in a community like Scarsdale, where I literally could be done with my carpool in 15 minutes. Where if you go further north, depending, I mean, there's a trade-off, obviously, but it could take you an hour. And you just get to the point where I know when I was raising my children, Scarsdale is made up of 5 different neighborhoods, and we live in Green Acres. And so that's on one end, and the other end is Quaker Ridge. Scarsdale is relatively small. It's maybe 10 minutes to drive from point A to point B. And my kids, each of them had a best friend at the other end. And I would say, okay, really? However, I'm telling you, it was 10 minutes. So you get very spoiled with this lifestyle. Everything is accessible and easy. And the other thing that I would say that Lower Westchester offers, if you're, someone that's, you're working in the city, but your child's playing soccer, or there's something special, or someone's recital, you can literally get on that train, come home, go to the recital, go to the soccer game, hop back on the train, and you're back at your office. So, there are pros and cons. You have to decide your priorities. It's a lifestyle question. I grew up on Long Island, as I said, and we were very far out. So from my house to the train station was 20 minutes. On the train was an hour. And it was literally 2 hours door to door. And so by the time I walked in the door, no one could talk to me until I calmed down. So now I feel like this is a joke. I take the train all the time now just to go to theater, go any place, because it's so easy. So, as I said, it's a trade-off. You have to figure out what's important to you.
Terrific. And it's good to be able to talk to someone that knows about all these communities. And
exactly. I've lived in a lot of places. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what about the cost differences, Elise and Anna, between the city and Westchester? And we talk about the city. I mean, does it also encompass, like Brooklyn Heights? Are there similarities there? What are kind of the cost differences? I know that we talked a little bit, Lynn mentioned something about taxes, but what else do people have to think about?
Well, in Manhattan, when we say New York City, when I say Manhattan, it's Manhattan. When I say New York City, it's Brooklyn, Queens, and Manhattan, and then you can go further north, to Morningside Heights, and as far up as you can on the island. All of that is New York City. So the way that the taxes and common charges in a condo or maintenance fees in a co-op relay are specific to the buildings and how they're assessed by the government. In condos, you have 2 separate fees where real estate taxes are the number that's allotted to the amount that's allotted to that building, and then divided by square footage, floor height, what kind of amenities you have within the apartment, whether you have outdoor space or how much space you take in the building. And then the common charges are to take care of the doorman, the super, managing agent, just to keep, the water, the garbage, all the little things that you don't really think of, the things that you think about when you're going to the suburbs, but it's all kind of built into your price when you're in the city. For a co-op, it's one fee, and it's all kind of lumped together, the taxes and the HOA fees. And there used to be a percentage that was tax deductible. Now it's a maximum of $10,000 per year that you can deduct. So those numbers are based on underlying mortgages. They're based on how many amenities there are in the building. Is there a health club, a spa? Is there a doorman and a concierge and somebody that, a porter or somebody that revolves the spinning door for you? I mean, it depends on how high end the building is. So, and then when it comes to, taking all of that and moving to Westchester, now I'm passing the baton to Elise to take over that.
Okay, so in Westchester, as Lynn had pointed out, definitely, probably the one thing that sticks out to somebody when they're looking is the taxes. And as Lynn was saying, I mean, the one important reason why you deal with a broker, because there are lots of little nuances in various communities that you would not know about as a layperson. And, taxes could be one of them. I mean, we always make sure, no matter what is put on a listing sheet, we always confirm everything with the municipality. We make sure these are, call the assessor, these are in fact the taxes. Whatever it is, we always make sure that everything on that sheet is correct. So that's really important. How I always looked at it, and I think, ultimately, most people, when they're looking to move to Westchester, look at it, yes, the taxes are X. I mean, they vary from community to community, but when you're looking at the fact that you have 2, 3 kids divided by the taxes, I always felt like it was a bargain, because the city schools, obviously, if you're doing private school, if you're doing public, that's one thing, but if you're doing private schools, it's very expensive. So it's deciding, what's important. So yes, taxes are definitely more than the city, but I always thought it was totally worth it for what we got. So that's how, people just have to really balance that out and figure that out. But that's where I think most people, when they're moving, the young couples, that's really when we get them. When they decide that, getting into school and paying for this is X, let's see what else is available. And that's when they start looking in Westchester.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Elise, but the opportunities provided by the town for the residents in the town are a lot less expensive as well, as far as camp,
Absolutely.
community pools and things like that. It's
exactly. I mean, you have, there are definitely private camps, but, for a community like Scarsdale, they have their own, they have a camp that starts from, I think, kindergarten to 5th grade. That is very inexpensive. They have a town pool that's beautiful with 3 pools surrounded by grass, and the kids take swimming lessons and take diving lessons there, and that's also very reasonable. And it's also a really nice way for families to meet each other. These young couples with children before they're going into school. And the other thing, a lot of these communities have great recreation departments. Scarsdale, for example, has, they'll do Little League, they have tennis, they have soccer, they have lacrosse when the kids are literally 5 years old. So, and it's basically all the neighborhoods play each other. So by the time the children enter middle school, they really know everybody in the community in their grade, which is really nice, and it's a tremendous comfort for them. So the communities really offer a lot. And, these are the things that I think when, people, especially now when people are looking for that green space and trying to figure out where to be, is why they end up in, whether it's Scarsdale, Larchmont, or you want to go a little farther. But these communities really have so much to offer to young families. It really is. I mean, I've been here 29 years. I was one of those people at one point.
I just want to add, I just want to add that when I moved out of the city, we looked at the taxes and also felt, it was high. But of course, we were looking at the school costs. But we also didn't have to have a second home anymore. So we sold our vacation, our weekend residence, which we no longer felt we needed. So that's another huge savings.
Right.
So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. I think, when talking, before you get to Hara, in terms of like, okay, getting the mortgage and what can I spend, you really want to look at all these different expenses. It's really not just mortgage to mortgage. It's these all other elements too that you're spending, whether it's a vacation home or camp or school or whatever those things are. So Hara, can you talk a little bit about timing a move and financing? Like, if you need to sell something in New York City, should you start looking after you find it? How do you handle a mortgage that way?
Every buyer is going to be different. Every client is going to have a different scenario, because if your 2 choices. So if you are going to sell and buy at the same time, the question is, can you afford to carry both properties for a certain period of time so that you have that layover between when you sell and buy? So, you might have a buyer that wants to renovate his home. He gets his designer. He's going to need to work on it for a month or 2. So he really needs to carry both properties for a bit. So, that's someone that might want to wait to put their property on the market for a little if they're going to need time to do renovation. But you really need to consider if you can afford both properties. So I always think be prepared, and I think go out and look and see how the inventory looks to you, and to say, okay, well, these properties please me. I think I can find something. I'm going to put my place on the market, and then just, especially as we were talking about selling in the city, especially if you have a co-op, that could take 90 days. So it really gives you enough time to put your property on the market, look for something, find something, go to contract, and sort of time the closings together. Mm-hmm. So it really is unique to each person though. If you can carry both, if you want to find something and buy and close and then sell. I mean, it's a hard question to answer. That's something that I think is a very tailored conversation to each person. But again, I always say be prepared. Go out there, start looking, see what's there for you. And if you see, I see a lot of things, put your place on the market and just time it right.
And you wouldn't be able, if you were getting a pre-approval, they're going to look at all that, you're going to look at all that information before you can pre-approve someone. Yes?
Right. So what you would tell me when we go for the pre-approval is if you expect that you'll close on your sale or not prior to your purchase. So if you say, no, I'm not going to close first, if you say, okay, well, I'm going to close within 2 weeks after, we look at it and we say, okay, well, maybe it's a little close on the qualification with both properties, but we know you're selling and that's temporary. And then that's something that we could approve just a little bit out of the box. But again, some people need the proceeds from their sale for the purchase. So then they have to close in advance.
Yeah.
So again, it's a little bit of a gray area and a hard question to answer because it's going to vary from client to client. But we do look at all of your liabilities if you're going to carry both properties.
The other thing to just tag on to that, Hara, what I was finding with a lot of the my clients from the city, a lot of them owned in the city and then rented. And so then now I can't tell you how many times it'll say, okay, so you own a rent. They rented because they wanted to be ready. And then they are ready to go. So they're liquid and they are ready to move. But you're right also about the pre-approval, because now where obviously we always would tell our clients, you should make sure you have a pre-approval. So, when you're ready to jump, now you can't even go in a house without a pre-approval because of COVID. Sellers only want people in the house that are serious buyers. They don't want lookers anymore. So that's changed as well. So you're totally right.
We got a question from one of the attendees who was asking about, diversity and good schools. How much can a broker assist with that, or is that
You can't.
So where would you recommend people go to find that information?
Well, basically there are various sites. NewYorkStateData.com. There's another one, Anna, you had mentioned they can go for
Great schools.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are not allowed to we really are not allowed to talk about schools, which is kind of crazy, but that's really where it is. So we always have our clients, they're online, they look up and they kind of figure out where they want to be. And then
say that again. It was greatschools.org. And what was the other one?
School Digger.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was .org or .com, but
Okay.
Also, the tagline in Manhattan is hang out outside the building, hang out in the lobby, see who comes in and out. But it's not just that we can't, we can lose our licenses and we're prohibited against that because of the fair housing laws. So we need to be equal and we need to supply the same information to everybody.
Exactly.
So they just kind of cut that all out. So it's not, we may be very knowledgeable, but we can't share that.
Right.
I think that's important for people to know, because this is not that your real estate broker is trying to hold out on you.
No.
This is that they really aren't. And do your due diligence, do your work ahead of time. And, really what we're talking about here is, about building a team, to be able to have the right agents that know about how to sell and how to buy, have the right mortgage banker to be able to get you pre-approved and provide that assistance, work with an attorney who can even look at a property before you've bought it and be able to tell you, the taxes, and from a design perspective, being able to get feedback on it before you even buy. Laura, a question came through about, do you work with people before they even buy a home to determine, is this home going to make me happy?
Absolutely. I have walked through prospective homes with clients who have said, is this a home for me? And what is it going to take to make this a home for me? So I've walked through homes where the seller was very interested in selling the furniture and the lighting and all the built-ins and everything. What basically they really wanted the house to remain intact and exactly how their children had been raised. And, there was sentimental value. And on the side, I would be saying, no way. You're buying none of it. This is not you. We're going to gut this. or that, yes, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And, you know, and a couple of coats of paint and you're done. So absolutely. Any phone call, I definitely, will go on any real estate site.
That vision is really a godsend, because, you know, not everybody has that perspective. I know that I'm one of those people. I walk in a house, if it's not exactly the way I want it, I don't know what it's going to look like.
Well,
so it's a really benefit to have someone that's with you who can see the potential,
right,
and meet with them and discuss your preferences so they can know if it can happen for you.
I will also work with clients on just their the house plan. So if there's a house that's being built and it's a spec home, I don't even have to walk through the door. I can look at the plans and say, okay, yes, we can work with this, but no, we're also going to have to address this, this, and this. Now, it's not going to fit your king size bed. It's not going to fit this. It's not conducive to what you have. So there's a lot of reasons to get an interior designer involved early.
Wonderful. Well, this has been so informative. I want to give you each just a quick brief to go around and give your one jewel of advice quickly to our attendees before we let them go. Elise, do you want to kick it off?
I was just thinking about that as I've listened to all these experts, and I would say work with an expert. It really makes a difference. I mean, I know for me personally, I have made, you know, I look at a house, I look in a magazine, oh, I can do that. And I do some designing in my house, or I do some landscaping. I have made very expensive mistakes. Get an expert. I mean, there are nuances in everything that you do and everything that's out there. You know, you're looking in a community. Everyone's very educated. You're online, you see what's going on, but you really need someone to guide you. There's a lot going on today. As I said, there are multiple bidding wars all the time, and you need someone to basically guide you and let you know this is how it works, and this is what you need to do to get this house. And we know because this is what we do. So I would say invest in, you don't have to invest in me, but invest in an expert, because it will really, in the end, I think it saves you money. I really do. And it saves you a lot of aggravation.
Great advice. Anna?
Well, 100% what Elise said, 100%. If you have the right person by your side, especially during a negotiation, you're undoubtedly going to get a better price on it, on either side. But to add to that, I believe Lynn mentioned earlier assembling your team, or somebody mentioned assembling your team. That is such an important part of moving forward in this process. If you really have, especially if you have no idea what you're doing, get all the people that do. If you can find people that actually know each other, then they cut out you as the middleman, and we could just speak directly, you know, at your permission. So it makes the process a lot more seamless. I would often call Hara, for example, and say, you know, so-and-so is panicking because the finances didn't come through. And that so-and-so called me, but they don't also then have to call Hara. I could talk to Hara and then get back to them, or I can talk to Elise, who they're buying from in Westchester, and say, you know, is the house going to be ready in time? And we do all that kind of in the background, and then whoever you choose to be your point person can go back and be that one or two people that you choose to support you. So if you can get people that know each other, I think it's just a benefit. It's not that we're all trying to, you know, scratch each other's backs. It's just that we, you know, a lot of people work really well together, and there's a reason that they're referring those people. So get your team together, be prepared, get that pre-approval, hugely important. Definitely in the city, definitely if you're coming into a competitive situation. It does not hurt to do it early. You can always update it as long as you're, all you have to do is supply the updated bank records or whatever it is. Very, very, very important. Be prepared and feel empowered by your team.
Wonderful, wonderful. Hara?
I think it's very important to find the right fit for yourself as far as your agent, your bank, your broker, and it is part of the team. You want to find the team that works efficiently like a well-oiled machine, because one wheel breaks and the whole system can break down. And just, I feel strongly about the teamwork because it makes everyone's job easier and much less stressful for the buyer. I want to also take off on sort of a little bit of a tangent. There's so much information out there and technology, and you're looking at a million things and rates and products. I think don't always feel that what you see on the computer and what you Google is always accurate, because there's fine print. And I think to always speak to the professional in person and get the facts and give them your information and your scenario so that you can have the actual accurate information for yourself, not what's open to everybody, because one size does not fit all.
Because there are websites out there, they don't need these different experts, and they're so wrong. Like Lynn, we certainly don't want to just go online and pick up a contract. We want to work with someone like Lynn. Lynn, what's your jewel of information that you can leave our attendees with?
On a legal side, I would definitely recommend getting an attorney, a specific real estate attorney who only practices in real estate as early on as possible. So a lot of clients think, okay, I'll get an attorney once I have an accepted offer. And I would highly recommend get an attorney early on in the process. We can consult you and advise you on so many things and answer so many questions and really be there ready to go once the offer is accepted. So I have a lot of clients who do engage me early on in the process, and they need a list of closing costs before they even put out an offer. So I can provide that and really work with the brokers and help clarify anything, so they're as confident and ready to go once we have an accepted offer.
Great, great. And last but certainly not least, Laura, what is your design jewel?
Thank you. Well, it goes without saying that teamwork is obviously the mantra that we're all going to repeat. So I'm not going to go there again. What I think is the most important is that you have to be realistic about what you are getting yourself involved in. And a lot of times people insist that they are so attached to the furniture that they had in their tiny little apartment that is going to fit into their home. And then the expectation is that they're going to finish the rest of the room and it's going to be beautiful. The truth of the matter is the chances of that are not great. Yes, you can recover a chair. Yes, you can recover a sofa, but the scale is probably wrong. The style is probably wrong. That little rug is too small. And the problem with that is that you're spending a good deal of money putting more money into a bad fit. So cut your losses, sell what you can sell, give away what you can give away, start fresh, and really have a home that you will enjoy, you, and your family.
Wonderful. That's really great advice.
Thank you so much.
One quick thing before we go. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I think another really important thing to note is there's a lot of noise. A lot of people have opinions when it comes to real estate, where you should, how much, you should be spending on this or that, or the pricing. Quiet out that noise. Stay focused on your path. It will be different than your best friend next door or whatever it is. Just stay focused. Don't worry about the competition. Do the best that you can do with the guidance of your people, and just get rid of all that extra noise.
You're right. Fantastic advice. A wonderful thing to end on. I want to thank you ladies for being here. Elise, Anna, Hara, Lynn, and Laura. I'm going to be sharing all their information, all their contact information. Stay tuned. In 24 hours, you'll get an email with all of it, and you can access this dream team right here. I think very important today. We learned about how important it is to have experts and a team. I want to thank you, ladies, for being here and shedding so much important information on us today. And for our attendees, thank you so much for spending this time with us. I hope that you now know whether you should stay or you should go. Thanks a lot. Have a wonderful afternoon. Please stay safe and stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Take care.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.